Hello and welcome to today's content, which will be on Frederika and her EX, since it has been announced, and I do believe she's due a unit analysis due to what she can bring to the table with her EX release, as well as Helena coming out in the same week. Frederika does have her EX a week earlier than Helena coming out, but it's good preparation to use her. Without further ado, let's begin. For main job takeaways, we do know that Frederika is a gunner, and I will refer to her as Rika from here on out in the video. With that, as a gunner, she has Blackout, she has Armed Fire, which is a very good buff in general. She gets Vital Shot, which has a better chance of critical hit, and it has a knockback effect. However, her EX upgrade for it has it so that she breaks physical barriers first, and then hits them. So it's very nice to have. She has a physical barrier break on her EX. She's notoriously known for arm shot and just random disables hitting out of nowhere. She does have double shot for possible chaining if you really wanted to use that. It doesn't hit as hard, but it's not bad at all. For her EX skill, she gets piercing shot, which is very good because it increases her defense penetration up to 40% for 3 turns for herself. This is very, very important because in the meta it is very easier, it's very easy to stack defense more now than ever. Outside of that, her limit break is going to be Butterfly Sting, which it has a very good selection for like her range on it. However, decreasing the CT is not really worth the AP cost considering how much more she can do with her other abilities. So yeah, it's not. If you follow Frederika, you probably haven't seen Butterfly Sting, or if you have, then that person probably did not tune her correctly. Regardless, she still does have it available. It'd be more used, if anything, in more live PvP instead of auto. So for the recommended sub-job pages, I have changed it now to focus on mostly the most important parts. And what I mean by that is cutting down on all the excess abilities that don't really have a usage at all or almost ever, just in general, because I do believe I'm kind of like dragging along too much on abilities sometimes. But yeah, most importantly, recommended sub-job for Frederika, I would say, is going to be the Ranger sub-job. She not only gets Sharpshoot for 100% hit, most importantly, she gets Barrage, which is a huge AoE ranged attack, and it does pretty good damage. For her Gunner sub-job, which I do not recommend using, she gets Sidewinder and Leg Shot to be her most damaging abilities. She does get Counsel, which is like crit rate up, but it's not really too good compared to what Ranger can do. Sharpshoot and Barrage alone is just too good. Same with the Ninja sub-job, Hide, Shuriken, Raiton, Decider of Fate. While they are all okay, they don't really synergize at all with Frederika, and I do believe the Ranger sub-job is just, you should be using Ranger sub-job on Frederika like almost at all times. Like, there's not really much to say. You should just be using Ranger sub-job. Here we are for the resistances and the passives. So for damages to resistances to damage types, she's at -15% to slash, 10% to pierce, 0 to strike, 0 to missile, and 10% to magic. So it's not too bad all around. She doesn't have a lot of HP though, so just getting hit in general is not good for her. But she does have very, very large range attacks, so you do want to keep her in the back line if possible. She has 0% AoE, 0% single target. She has 0 defense and 0 spirit at level 120, including her master ability and all that for jazz. Her resistances to statuses, she has 50% resistant to petrify and sleep. And weirdly, she is -5% to charm. I guess it might have to do with like the story wise because she really likes Engelbert, but I don't know why, but it's there. For her master ability, she gets missile attack 15 for herself, which is not bad for damage. You can see that she is missing element, the mono element lightning, unfortunately, but it's not too bad either way. Her EX in general just pushes her forward very well. For her mobility, she has 3 move, 1 jump. She's a cost 80 unit. For her passives, what I would recommend using all times is going to be Concentrate Mastery, which is Concentrate, but when her EX version comes out, well, it is out, but once you get her to EX, she gets the upgraded part on increases the missile resistance penetration by 40% for herself. Whether or not they have missile resistance or not, this penetration is going to definitely help you deal like more guaranteed damage, pretty much. After that, we have Ranger Lore to further increase her range if you want, and accuracy. The accuracy part is kind of wishy-washy, but it's also because if you want her to use Barrage, but there's a lot of evasion units, the accuracy does help because Barrage does not have 100% hit ability, but she does have Sharpshoot. Missile Master is also here to further stack her modifiers if you want. For Niche and Flex, it was a bit hard. I would actually argue that Shadowrunner and Shikuchi is actually can be recommended, but just for now, to show other like opportunities, I put them in niche and flex. Shadow Runner will definitely help her be even faster than she already is. She is already very fast on agility. She also gets a little bit of luck, which will help a little bit on the accuracy part, which she doesn't need too much help in general because she has sharpshoot. Shikuchi is very good because this gives her access to 4 move 2 jump, which is crazy. It essentially increases her range by 1, but definitely more depending on the terrain. It depends. I also recommend maybe not using it because she might run in too deep to the enemy turn 1 instead of maybe like buffing up. So it's something to consider. Focus is, she doesn't really have any good activation times or like cast time abilities outside of her Ranger sub job, which is mostly gonna be like supercharge or like stuff like that, which is not too useful compared to what she can do. So that's why I didn't put focus like in the recommended area. For reaction abilities, she gets counter shot, which is from the gunner sub job, which is not too bad. Poison bar from the ninja, which is very reliant on you being almost face to face with the enemy. And reflex, which is one of the best in the game, where she can counter all damage. It says all damage, but it's not actually all damage. It's definitely only physical and magical attacks. And I say this because there is special quote-unquote hidden tech, which is like, I believe, drain force, bypasses reflex, stuff like that. Does not actually like activate reflex. But anyways, outside of that, reflex overall is just very strong and has a chance to proc. It is the highly recommended reaction ability I would use personally. Here we are at Rika's rating out of 5 and what I decided to give her. So her EX version right now, if you have her ready, I give her a 4.5 out of 5. The reason why is that she's very capable of being a very strong missile attacker. Also with Korul and that vision card coming out, if you use Frederika's Dream and the Korul card, she's definitely going to be hitting huge chunks every time she uses Barrage. She has very low HP, however, but she has actually pretty good attack for a gunner, especially because she has no other modifiers. It's not bad. She has very high agility. She has a base of 0 defense and 0 spirit. She's capable of dealing very good damage with single target mostly. And her main AoE, and I believe only her AoE outside like something like Sidewinder, is gonna be Barrage, and that is her AoE, and it's insanely good. She's able to inflict a blind, disable, and reduce CT on her main job alone. She has access to Ranger subjob with both Sharpshoot and Barrage. Her EX allows her to get 40% missile res resistance penetration on a passive, and an attack ability that grants 40% defense penetration for 3 turns. Pretty good, because that is 2 things that she was hurting on in the future, but she definitely got it covered. She has 100% hit ability on Sharpshoot, so she's able to pressure evasion units to make sure like they have to respect her pretty much, unless they have a lot of missile resistance. But even then, she has penetration, so we'll have to see. She has a large variety of flexible passives, as you saw earlier. She has Shikuchi, she has Shadow Runner, she has Ranger Lore, she has all that. She can increase her utility further in terms of DPS. She's capable of dealing significant damage that is very hard like to mitigate against, like without elemental resistance, as we said earlier. Missile resistance penetration, and 40% defense penetration. 40% for both is pretty significant considering that most defense penetration is either 40% or 20%. So getting it up to 40% is pretty nice. Obviously, it's not the quote-unquote power creep level of like Cloud, which is like 60%. Same with Tifa, which is at 65% if she uses her ability, but it's still there. It definitely helps her to keep up in terms of right now, at least. She also has a physical barrier break, which is on her vital sharp shot now. Her resistance are pretty weak, mostly to slash. But because she's able to stay back really far with her range, it doesn't actually matter too much on her resistances. Just be wary that if she does not have a lot of range and she's grouping up with her team, chip damage can definitely take her out quite easily. She's insanely good for live PvP value. Everyone that does competitive live PvP knows Frederika was she was a horror and a terror to fight against. She still kind of is right now, but having her EX will make her even more insanely annoying to play against. But yeah, she's here for live PvP even more. EX definitely will bring her back even stronger than ever. To maximize the DPS, however, she is almost required bells at almost all times because of her significant AP cost on both her, mostly the AoE ability Barrage. Like, it just costs so much AP, she has to have it almost at all times. Otherwise, you're gonna kind of fall flat on DPS. So for the future and longevity, I was thinking about giving her a 4 out of 5, but I lowered her down to a 3.5 out of 5 for a few reasons, and I'll explain why. So first off, she has to choose between dealing damage, utility, or debuffs, and they're all separate on her abilities, unfortunately. As you saw earlier, if she wants to use a barrier break, she has to use Vital Shot, which is only a barrier break. If she wants her defense penetration, she has to use Piercing Shot, which is... she has to use that ability first, which is then gonna give her defense penetration. At least she has her missile resistance penetration on a passive, but having the other abilities she had like all spread out is gonna feel pretty bad. She also has to decide if she wants to use barrage or not compared to those two other abilities I like mentioned earlier. So yeah, it's pretty rough. She has a base of 0 defense and spirit, means that, as I said earlier, chip damage from almost any DPS, unless it's like hitting like a good resistance she will probably die almost certainty. She has very good firepower. However, if she's not able to kill her enemies in time after she runs out of AP or her 3 barrages, you're gonna expect to like probably not win that fight because she's out of firepower. Her defense penetration, as you saw earlier, is only activated by her EX ability, and it has to be EX, so having her pre-EX is not going to be too helpful to you. And she has mostly only single target abilities outside of Barrage, so she's not able to deal a lot of AoE damage outside of Barrage. Keep in mind, Barrage is very strong, it's very good, but if it gets healed, there's not much you can do. She's lacking mono element modifiers, and her only team synergy outside of... she doesn't really have any team synergy outside of like Armed Fire buff, basically. She can use Council, but as I said as before, you're not using the Gunner sub-job. You should be using the Ranger sub-job at almost all times. She's able to be like status elemented by most of the meta stuff, which is the run-in Berserk King Mont. She could be disabled, she could be stopped. She's pretty much... she has... as much as she can be status elemented, just remember that she is in the backline, so these issues are not too big of a deal. Despite having very good unmitigated damage, like on her Frederika's side, if with her defense penetration and her missile penetration, you have to keep in mind that her raw damage potential is actually not too high, especially for units that have just really high survivability in general or tanks. She is not going to be able to kill them in time. Her main goal as a unit, mostly for auto, is she's going to be using Barrage to kill the backline, and if she's not able to do so, you are high chance probably going to lose that match in most circumstances. And the main reason why I gave her 3.5 out of 5 is because of her utility. Niv Lu is significantly better than Frederika in my opinion in terms of just a usability as a unit, not only due to utility, but because Niv Lu doesn't even have her EX yet. Once Niv Lu's EX is out, I can definitely see Frederika being replaced easily with Niv Lu, with like, there's no questions asked. Like, Niv Lu is gonna have the spell spread, she has defense down on enemies, AoE large, she has barrier breaks, she just has, I believe, a much better utility kit than Frederika in terms of what the game needs. She also has haste and quicken on time mage, so yeah, I digress. She just... Frederika will be outdated sooner or later, and I do believe her longevity in future will definitely like wane out a little bit. Outside of that, we have her TMR chase rating. I give her a 2 out of 5. Victory Ribbon used to be decently good in a long time ago class match, which is what I used. It's an accessory that gives a lot of HP, 434. It gives you accuracy and crit rate. However, you have to keep in mind, this does not give you much AP, it does not give you defense, does not give you spirit. It's just a stat stick for HP, accuracy, and crit rate. The active ability is going to be Trap Protection, which nullifies Disable, Immobilize, and Stop for an ally, and you can use it twice, which is, it sounds pretty good, and I actually did use this a lot, especially in class matches, I believe Season 2, when a lot of people were using Agrius. I definitely use this. You have to keep in mind why I gave it a 2 out of 5 rating is that this is preemptive as a buff. You have to use it before you get hit by it. If you're already hit by a Disable, you're already hit by a Stop, and then you use Trap Protection, it does not purify it, it does not Asuna, it does not cure it. It just means, oh, you put the like the null buff that you can't be affected by it anymore, but you still have the status effect if you already got status affected by it. So yeah, overall I gave it TMR chase rating a 2 out of 5. So here we are, that's stuff that can work well with Frederika. First off, Niv Lu. These two, if you're able to get enough AP for both of them and they use the Barrage and then Niv Lu's LB special combo chain, they're gonna suffer greatly. A lot of players that played in the Fortress guild map remember double and triple gunners. we literally got destroyed if you did not have a very, very heavy missile mitigation team against it. You were literally just destroyed because of how strong it was. 2B is also very good. The reason why I put 2B here is that Earth units in general obviously are going to be a very big weakness to Frederika. 2B is a wind unit and a frontline, which is two things that Frederika needs to help cover her weaknesses. Obviously, if you have a tank in general, it helps, but because she's able to kill Earth units very easily, and she's a frontline in general to take a little bit of the aggro away, 2B is a very good selection here. We have 9S as well, who's able to not only help buff and like basically be a frontline as well to Frederika. He also has armor piercer if you use the astrologer's vision card. He's also a lightning element, so it helps. As you can see here, most of the units here are lightning, because usually you can stack 2 mono elements and get a good amount of benefits. You usually do not want to stack 3 unless you're doing some crazy strat or you're doing an arena run like certain builds. You usually do not want to stack 3 in most compositions. 2 is like fine as it is. 9S is a very good choice in that because he also covers slash and pierce, while Frederika covers range, missile, pretty much. And lastly, we have Cloud, who is obviously not out yet in global. However, he can pair up well with Frederika. The reason why is if Frederika gives him allied, armed fire, she can give her allies armed fire, which increases the range by 1 and missile attack. Cloud can give her the soldier's pride buff, which is like the AP up, and these two both have barrage. You can already guess what's happening. They can just go barrage comboing just with like Nivlu, the same thing. For TMRs, as I said earlier, you should not be really using her without bells unless you have a very special setup, and if you do, then that's good. But 90% of the time, I'll say 90%, maybe 95%, you want to use bells on her because she wants to get barrage out. Outside of that, Saint's Circle is always very nice to have, Cecil's TMR, because it gives you attack to your team, raises your bravery, and it's a team utility ability that keeps her back if you don't want her like going pew 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 really early on. Outside of that, we have Alex Ring. I actually use this personally sometimes because while Frederika does have sharpshoot for 100% hit, if a lot of your enemies were evasion, Alex Ring definitely helps significantly in terms of accuracy, and if she hits a barrage on all her enemies with the accuracy ring because they can't evade it or they have a lower chance to evade it, then this is very significantly favored towards you in terms of RNG. Titus Necklace is always going to be good because it has the critical damage up, so if you just want more raw damage, if you can, on a critical hit you will definitely get more damage with Titus's Necklace. And we arrived to the end of the video. As always, if you liked my unit analysis and review on Frederika, please leave a like and subscribe, and until the next video, peace out.